My date asked if I was good in bed, and I told her something I hadn't said in 4 years. Not because I wanted to impress her, but because the moment she looked across that small candlelit table and asked with a teasing smile, something in me cracked open in a way I hadn't let happen since the night I lost the woman I thought I would marry. My name is Caleb Turner. I'm 32. I restore old homes for a living. And for 4 years I've been the kind of man who can fix broken floors, cracked walls, and sagging roofs, but not the quiet, damaged parts of himself. My date, Emily Ross, had this calm confidence about her, like she wasn't afraid of awkward moments, like she leaned into them instead of running away. The restaurant smelled like garlic and warm bread, soft music playing in the background, glasses clinking gently around us. It should have been a normal night. It wasn't. She tilted her head slightly after asking the question, her lips curved like she expected a joke. I opened my mouth to laugh it off, but nothing came out. My chest tightened, my fingers curled around the edge of the table like I needed something to hold me steady. I haven't been with anyone in 4 years, I said finally. The words landed between us heavier than anything she could have expected. Her smile faded, not in a bad way, not judgmental, just surprised, curious, softer. Oh, she said quietly. I nodded once, staring down at the flickering candle between us. I could feel the old memory creeping in, the one I'd buried so deep I stopped saying it out loud. The hospital hallway, the smell of antiseptic, the sound of a machine going flat. I was engaged, I added, my voice lower now. She didn't make it. Silence filled the space, but it wasn't empty. It was full of everything I'd been holding back for years. Emily didn't interrupt. She didn't rush to fix it. She just sat there, her eyes on me, steady, present, and that made it harder. I didn't stop dating because I wanted to, I continued, my voice barely above a whisper. I stopped because I didn't know how to feel anything without feeling guilty. For a second, I thought I'd ruined everything. Thought she'd nod politely, finish dinner, and disappear like everyone else had once things got real. But then she leaned forward just a little, her voice gentle, careful. Caleb, can I ask you something? I swallowed, my heart pounding again. Yeah. She held my gaze this time, no teasing, no jokes. Why did you say it like that? She asked softly. Like it still owns you. The question hit deeper than the first one, and for the first time in 4 years. I didn't look away. I didn't answer her right away. Not because I didn't hear the question, but because I felt it. It landed somewhere deep, somewhere I hadn't let anyone reach in a long time. The candle between us flickered again, and I realized my hands were still gripping the table like I was holding on during a storm. Because it does, I said finally, my voice quieter than before. It still owns me. Emily didn't move, didn't rush me. She just sat there, her fingers lightly wrapped around her glass, waiting, not for a perfect answer, just a real one. And for some reason, that made it easier to keep going. I thought I was moving on, I continued. After the first year, I told myself I had to. Everyone kept saying it. You're still young, Caleb. You'll find someone else. Like it was that simple. Like people are replaceable. I let out a small breath, shaking my head. So I tried. I went on a few dates. I smiled. I laughed when I was supposed to, but every time it felt wrong, like I was cheating on someone who wasn't even there anymore. The words hung in the air, heavier now, more honest than anything I'd said in years. Emily's expression softened, but there was something else in her eyes too, something deeper than sympathy. Understanding. What was her name? She asked gently. My chest tightened again. Lena. Just saying it out loud made everything sharper, realer. She used to ask me that same question, I added with a faint, almost broken smile. Not like you did. She'd joke about it, tease me. Said I looked too serious to be any fun. Emily let out a quiet breath, like she was picturing it. You loved her a lot, she said. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I did. There was a pause, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt steady, like we weren't rushing past something important. Then Emily leaned back slightly, her eyes still locked on mine. And you think moving forward means You're leaving her behind, she said, not as a question, but as a truth she'd already figured out. I blinked, caught off guard. Isn't that what it is? I asked. She shook her head, just a little. No, she said softly. That's what it feels like. But it's not what it is. I frowned slightly, confused. Then what is it? She hesitated for the first time since the conversation started, not because she didn't know, but because she cared about how she said it. It's choosing to keep living, even with her still being part of you. The words hit something deep, not loud, not dramatic, just steady, like a truth I hadn't let myself consider. I looked down at the candle again, watching the flame move. I don't know how to do that, I admitted. Emily nodded like she expected that answer. Of course you don't, she said gently. No one teaches you how to love someone who's gone and still make space for someone new. That sentence stayed with me. It settled somewhere in my chest, heavy but not painful, different. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The restaurant noise came back into focus, the low hum of conversations, the clink of silverware, the soft music in the background, life going on around us. It felt strange, like I'd been underwater for years and had just come up for air. Emily reached for her glass again, then paused. Can I tell you something? She asked. I looked up. Yeah. She gave a small smile, not playful this time, just honest. This is the most real conversation I've had on a first date. I let out a quiet breath that almost turned into a laugh. Yeah, not exactly what I planned either. She smiled a little wider. I'm glad you didn't lie, she said. That caught me off guard. Most people would have, she added. They would have made a joke, changed the subject, said something smooth and easy. I shrugged, slightly. I almost did. But you didn't, she said. There was something in the way she said it, like it mattered more than I realized. And for the first time that night, something shifted inside me. Just a little. Not a big change. Not some sudden transformation, just less heavy. The waiter came by then, asking if we were ready to order dessert. Emily glanced at me, raising an eyebrow slightly. You okay to stay a little longer? She asked. I hesitated for half a second, then I nodded. Yeah, I think I am. She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. Good, I was hoping you'd say that. We ordered something simple, chocolate cake to share. It felt like a small thing, but it wasn't. It felt like choosing to stay, choosing not to run. While we waited, the conversation shifted, not away from what we'd said, but into something lighter. She told me about her job. She worked in a bookstore, said she liked being surrounded by stories, because they reminded her that people always find a way through something. I told her about the houses I worked on, how I liked restoring things instead of replacing them, how old wood had character, history. She smiled at that. That makes sense, she said. What does? I asked. You, she replied simply. I didn't fully understand what she meant, but I didn't question it either. The dessert arrived. We shared it without thinking too much about it, forks crossing occasionally, small laughs when it got messy. It felt normal, easy, and that scared me a little, because I hadn't felt that in a long time. At one point, Emily looked at me again, more serious now. Can I ask you one more thing? She said. I nodded. Yeah. She took a small breath. When you said you haven't been with anyone in 4 years, do you want that to change? The question was simple, but the answer wasn't. I looked at her. Really looked this time, not through the lens of fear, not through guilt, just as she was. I don't know, I said honestly, but tonight feels different. Her expression softened again. Different how? I paused. Like I'm not trying to replace anything, I said slowly. Like I'm just here. She nodded, like that made perfect sense. That's a good place to start, she said, and for the first time in 4 years, I believe that might actually be true. We finished dessert, paid the bill, and stepped outside into the cool night air. The streetlights cast a soft glow across the sidewalk, and everything felt quieter out there. Simpler. We stood there for a second, neither of us rushing to leave. I had a really good time, she said. Me too, I replied. There was a small pause. Then she smiled, just a little. And for the record, she added, a hint of that earlier teasing tone coming back, that wasn't the answer I expected when I asked if you were good in bed. I let out a soft laugh. Yeah, not my smoothest moment, she shook her head. No, she said gently. It was better than smooth. That stayed with me. We walked a few steps together toward the parking lot. When we reached her car, she turned to face me. I'm not in a rush, she said. About anything. I nodded slowly. Okay. She studied my face for a second, like she was making sure I understood. We can take things slow, she added, or not at all, but I'd like to see you again. My heart thumped once, hard, not from fear, from something else. I'd like that too, I said. She smiled softer now. Good. She opened her car door, then paused. Hey, Caleb? Yeah? I don't think she'd want you to stop living. The words hit me in a way nothing else had that night. Not like pressure, not like guilt, just a quiet truth. I swallowed, nodding once. Yeah, I said quietly. Maybe she wouldn't. Emily got into her car, gave me one last look, and drove off. I stood there for a while after she left, the night air cool against my skin, my hands in my pockets. For the first time in 4 years, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like something had shifted. Not everything, but enough. Enough to wonder, what happens next? I didn't sleep much that night, not because my mind was racing the way it used to, but because for the first time in years, it wasn't running from something. It was sitting with it, quietly. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the faint glow of streetlights slipping through the curtains, and I kept hearing her voice. I don't think she'd want you to stop living. I'd heard versions of that before, from friends, from family, even from strangers who thought they were helping. But it had never landed the way it did coming from Emily, because she hadn't said it like advice. She said it like she saw me. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The house was still, the air cool. I walked into the kitchen, poured coffee into the same chipped mug I'd been using for years, and for a moment, everything felt the same. But it wasn't. I noticed it in the small things, the way I stood a little straighter, the way the silence didn't feel as heavy, the way I didn't immediately reach for distraction. Instead, I found myself walking toward something I hadn't touched in a long time. There was a box in the corner of my bedroom, simple, worn at the edges. I hadn't opened it in over 2 years, not because I forgot, because I couldn't. I stood there for a long second, then slowly knelt down and pulled it toward me. My hands hesitated over the lid. Then I opened it. Inside were pieces of a life I'd paused, photos, letters, a bracelet she used to wear, a small folded note with my name written in her handwriting. Lena. My chest tightened, but not the way it used to. Not like something was crushing me, more like something was waking up. I picked up one of the photos. It was us, standing outside a house I had just finished restoring. She had that same smile I remembered, bright, easy, alive. I'm trying, I whispered quietly, my thumb brushing over the edge of the picture. I don't know how yet, but I'm trying. For the first time, I didn't feel like I was betraying her by saying that. I felt like I was finally being honest. I sat there longer than I expected, going through the memories, not avoiding them, not drowning in them, just letting them exist. And something shifted again, not the past, but how it lived inside me. Later that afternoon, I found myself doing something I hadn't done in 4 years. I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over her name, Emily. For a second, that old fear crept in again. What if this goes wrong? What if I lose this too? But then another thought followed it. What if I don't try at all? I let out a slow breath and typed, Hey, I had a really good time last night. Would you want to do it again? I stared at the message for a second, then hit send. The moment it went through, my heart started pounding. I almost laughed at myself. This shouldn't feel this big. But it did, because it wasn't just a text. It was a step. A few minutes passed, then my phone buzzed. I looked down. I was hoping you'd ask. I didn't realize I was smiling until I felt it. It wasn't forced. It wasn't something I had to remind myself to do. It just happened. That night I went back to work on one of the houses I'd been restoring. The smell of wood and dust filled the air, the soft creak of the floor beneath my boots. I ran my hand along a newly repaired wall, feeling the smooth surface where cracks used to be. And it hit me. I knew how to do this, not perfectly, not quickly, but slowly, carefully, with patience, the same way I restored everything else. A few days later, I saw Emily again. This time, there was no pressure, no heavy silence, no fear of saying the wrong thing. We walked through a small outdoor market, lights hanging above us, music drifting through the air. She laughed at something I said, really laughed, and for a moment, I forgot to be careful. Just was. At one point, she looked at me, a little more serious. "You seem different," she said. I shrugged slightly. "I think I am." She tilted her head. "In a good way?" I nodded. "Yeah, in a real way." She smiled at that. We stopped near a small stand, selling coffee, the warm smell wrapping around us. She handed me a cup, our fingers brushing for just a second. Neither of us pulled away right away. And this time, I didn't overthink it. I let it happen. Weeks passed, then months. We didn't rush. We didn't force anything. We built something, slowly, honestly. There were still hard days. Days where the past felt closer than I wanted it to. Days where I had to sit with memories that still hurt. But I didn't run anymore. And Emily didn't try to fix me. She just stayed. One evening, we were sitting on my porch, the sun setting in soft shades of orange and gold. The air was calm, the world quiet around us. She leaned her head, lightly against my shoulder. "You know," she said softly, "you never really answered my question." I smiled slightly. "What question?" She glanced up at me, that familiar teasing look back in her eyes. "Are you good in bed?" I laughed, really laughed this time, not nervous, not forced, just free. "I think," I said slowly, "I'm finally learning how to be." She smiled, resting her head back against me. "I think you are too." And in that moment, everything felt right. Not perfect, not finished, but real. And for the first time in 4 years. That was enough. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever held on to pain because you were afraid to move forward, take this as your sign that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to live again. If you want more stories like this, stories that remind you that love can still find you, even after everything, make sure you subscribe and turn on the EOD notification bell so you don't miss what comes next. And tell me this. Have you ever been afraid to open your heart again, not because you didn't want love, but because you were scared of losing it twice?